Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to have an expert with us with interests that are a little bit hard to describe, but let her do it herself. She's an educator, though not a teacher, and an entrepreneur. So let's listen to her. Today we have with us Jigyasa Labroo. Let's listen to her. Over to you, Jigyasa.
All right. Um, Hi, Subhoji. Hi, everybody. My name is Jigyasa Labroo, as you already know. I deeply care about children having safe spaces to express themselves. I myself grew up with a lot of exposure to artistic opportunities. I learned how to dance, I learned music, I learned painting, and all of these experiences enabled me to find my own voice, and my work at Slam Out Loud is about creating safe spaces where children can really find their own voice using the arts, express themselves creatively, and also build the life skills or social-emotional learning skills to thrive in their own lives.
So go ahead, tell us more about it.
Okay, tell you more about it. Um, to just give you more context on how Slam Out Loud started, um, I already told you about how I grew up with a lot of exposure to the arts, and right after my undergrad, I joined something called the Teach for India Fellowship. So I taught in a low-income classroom in a community in Delhi, specifically Tughlakabad Extension for 2 years, and which is where I brought in a lot of art into my own classroom. So poetry, theater, storytelling, and I saw how it impacted my children more than ever before. Children who had never raised their hands in the class were suddenly raising their hands.
Hmm.
Children were talking about their identity, children were talking about their culture, and all this while, the idea of how, when children enter a school's gate, they almost leave their culture and identity at the gate and then become like part of a big blob. I saw how that idea was challenged within the microcosm that was my own classroom. I saw children bring in all these elements, talk about things that I never thought they thought about, and things that were important to them. So I saw that, shift in their behavior, their personalities, how self-esteem sort of started developing in my own kids. And I loved seeing that change happen. But I'd never thought I would turn this into an organization. Slam Out Loud would have continued to be a passion project, which I was doing inside my classroom. Um, but I got an opportunity to do this internship with the government of Kashmir. Now, more context, which is my family is originally from Kashmir, and were essentially and unfortunately part of an exodus because of which they had to leave their homes, and they came to Himachal, and then I was born in Himachal, and I grew up in Dharamshala, a beautiful place, very spiritually and naturally abundant. I also live in Dharamshala right now, and the first time I ever went to Kashmir was when I was 22 years old. I was at Teach for India, and I went as a part of an internship, which was on a school transformation program.
Hmm.
What I had to offer from my end at that point of time was the spoken word poetry workshop, which I would do anywhere and everywhere. I'd done this more than 50 times, going into classrooms and asking children to pick an emotion and taking them through a process of writing a small poem on that emotion. And most children, you know, about these 50 times had ended up writing about things like happiness and excitement and joy and, these things that children talk about a lot. And there would be like one child in the classroom who would, let's say, write about sadness. However, in that classroom in Kashmir, about 30 out of 35 kids ended up writing about anger and hate and confusion
Hmm.
and a lot of feelings of isolation. And I felt that as an educator, as a teacher, I did not have a response to that in that moment. Um, at that time, of course, I told the children that I was grateful that they shared. They felt, they were safe to share here. But Slam Out Loud becoming an organization was really a response to that day. It's also a moment of obligation that I had, where I felt that more and more children, especially who come from adversity, from low income backgrounds in India, should have more spaces to talk about how they feel. And the arts are such a powerful way to do that. And yet we take that away from our children. We come from a country with such a rich cultural heritage when it comes to the arts. And yet, if you look at our ratio of art teachers to number of students, even in Delhi, which has one of the more progressive government education systems, our ratio is 1 is to 1400, which means less than 20 hours of artistic education for children who go to government schools in Delhi. Uh, in addition to that, if you compare, let's say, the sizes of Great Britain and India, um, their spending on arts and culture is 5 times um, that of India. And we've come to this point where, as a country, we don't create any spaces in our classrooms where our children can be creative. I think in 2014 or 15, we ranked, as a country, we ranked 99th on the Global Creativity Index. And as a country that is marred by so many complex problems, that has such a huge population, um, our expectation is that our children will turn into adults who will be creative entrepreneurs or problem solvers, who will find their way through their solutions. But we never create any spaces for our children to ideate, to express, to solve problems, to imagine. And there's research all over the world, from the World Bank to the World Economic Forum to the National Endowment of Arts. There's so much research that talks about how the arts are one of the most powerful ways for children to build these skills that will allow them to live better futures, that will allow them to thrive. And yet we don't do that. Slam Out Loud changes that. We work on.
Just a second, let me interrupt you here, Jigyasa.
Absolutely.
I just to say that I agree with you 100%. Our schooling system is a kind of a badly run industrial production process.
Yeah.
Badly run in the sense that the producers, the teachers are not competent enough, not motivated enough. It's a badly run industrial production process. There's no place in it for what you are trying to do. Okay, it's underfunded, badly run industrial production process. Herd the children through a assembly line. Okay, I'm not against any of that teaching, but it's woefully inadequate. It's woefully inadequate, and there is no real expectation that they will become thinkers in college and so on. I mean, I've now talked to or listened to more than 300 young people as part of this Vidped series, and uh, I have never, hardly ever heard them say, look, I'm creative. If they are creative in the sense of taking part in traditional cultural items like you did, dance and music. That's not creativity, that's conforming. Okay, I've said enough. Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah, maybe that's all creativity. Um, but Slam Out Loud's work is to change that, exactly what you talked about,
Mm.
right? Children are not products, children are human beings. So they shouldn't be a part of like an industrial system, and which essentially diminishes identity, right? How might we create spaces for children where they can become themselves, rather than become part of a
Mm.
big homogeneous herd? So Slam Out Loud's target is the art class, which every child who goes to a government school in India is entitled to. So, for example, let's imagine, so both you're, a child and you go to a government school. Every week you're supposed to receive an arts class. Now, what happens? It becomes either a free period or it becomes a science or math period. Our goal is to change that. Our goal is that that class becomes a safe space where you can creatively express, where you can
Mm.
create, where you can work using the arts, and not just the visual arts, but also through poetry, through storytelling, theater. And we, hopefully will
Mm.
keep on adding different art forms that we work with. Now, how do we do this? We do this through two kinds of programs. One of our programs, which is almost like an experimental lab for us and where we learn what the deepest outcomes of our work look like, is a fellowship program where we place art educators into classrooms. And these are people who have backgrounds in psychology, in different art forms, often in art therapy as well, who we connect to a school in a low income community. And these are full-time employees at Slam Out Loud. So they're trained in pedagogy, they go to the classrooms, they're observed weekly, they're given feedback. And so while they develop as art educators, the children get exposed to art forms like theater, poetry, storytelling, and visual art, and build what we call creative confidence skills using that. Through the year, the fellows also work deeply with the communities and create a lot of platforming opportunities for children. You know, we have children who are creating so much new work, who are creating so much new art. Like, how do we get them to go out there and perform? So, our fellows and us as an organization also work on creating a lot of that platforms through the year. This is currently present in Delhi, Pune, Bombay, Bangalore. And last year, we worked with about 17 full-time fellows who worked across schools in these cities. And these 17 fellows were selected out of more than 920 applications that we received for people who wanted to be a part of the program. And 100% of them actually completed the fellowship this year, and showed great growth in children in the skills we measure. Some of the skills that we measure are curiosity, imagination, analytical thinking, emotional intelligence, agency. So we saw like children growing in these skills. Now we have this really tight program where we see what growth looks like, what excellence looks like. But we also have this realization that for a country at the scale of India, we could never place an artist in every single classroom. And so we decided to work with systems where a child who's supposed to get that art class once in a week never gets it. And now we partner with two state governments where our proposition to them is that for that particular art class, we'll create the curriculum, we'll train the teachers, and it won't be like a one-off training where we came, trained, and said bye-bye, but we'll train them through the year. And we'll also provide program managers who will go into their classrooms, give them feedback, provide them support in their growth and their learning. And so in these two states, now we're working on turning that art class into a period where children actually build creative confidence skills, or, in a lot of educational language, we call these socio-emotional learning skills, which children need to success in social and emotional worlds. And that's where we're at as an organization. We are 50 people full time at the moment, and we are working on both a very deep program where we learn and a systemic program where we can affect change in how an art class in a government school happens.
Okay, which are the states?
Punjab and Maharashtra are the states where we do this program.
Okay, wonderful. All right. I'd love to hear more about it. I mean, some success story that you think you can tell us about. So please go ahead.
Absolutely. Can I don't know. Like, if I could share a video, I would show you one of our students.
Sure. Okay, I'm going to put you on pause till we figure out the video. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we are now set up to show the video. Jigyasa, please play the video.
Yes.
10. Excellent! 7 out of 10.
Good. Can do much better.
1 out of 10.
Very poor.
I grew up with these numbers and these labels. These numbers tell me where I stand, how much I learn, and how much I know. But I wonder, are these numbers that feel like the advertisements interrupting my favorite movie really that significant? Counting was easy to learn because of the everyday roll calls. Roll number 1, present. Roll number 2, present. Roll number 51, present. And the long list of class tests, which are like traffic snarls from which I try to get through. And when we get back the test papers, the classroom starts to feel like a prison with the roll calls. Caddy number 1 present, caddy number 2 present, caddy number 51 present. My little heart is never interested in these exams. Its passion is something beyond these ranks and the high red brick walls of the building called school. The walls are so high that only the bricks can see the world outside.
So I'll just pause here.
Yeah,
I think
okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying the last sentence that Supriya says, the walls of the school are so high that only the walls can see the world outside. It's so real. And when you asked me about like, a success story, we have multiple children like Supriya. Supriya is a very beautiful, special person. And she was beautiful and special even before she came into Slam Out Loud. But I remember she came into Slam Out Loud when she was in sixth or seventh grade. And she wanted to write poetry. She was still scribbling something when she came to the first ever as well workshop. And was this person who was looking for a space for her own voice. And slowly, as we grew in the programs, I saw Supriya turn into this beautiful, independent, confident individual with a mind of her own who would use platforms to talk about things that were important to her. And a poem like this, she wrote this poem. And at this point, Supriya is currently on a full scholarship at Ashoka University in Delhi. She's studying liberal arts with a major in creative writing, and she wants to follow that field. And I feel that she's not just used her voice to get on a stage and share a poem, but she's also used her voice in negotiating with her family, in being able to while she was still in school, she was taking care of her siblings. She was also doing internships, taking care of herself financially. And I've seen her become an independent person who has the creative confidence to thrive in their life. And I've not just seen that for Supriya, I've seen that for many, many children. And I think that's something that motivates me deeply for our work, and is a real case on why what we do works. You're muted.
Anything else you want to tell us?
I think more than anything, I feel like, our children, no matter where they come from, have the capability to become the cultural curators of the world. If you think about who the cultural curators are now, and let's say if you even think of the world over, or if you see in India, it's people who come from a lot of privilege. But we've seen outliers everywhere. We've seen people who've defied the odds and really brought their voice into spaces that matter. And it's not just true for being cultural curators. I think our children, no matter where they're from, can become Nobel laureates, can become world leaders, can become artists, politicians, that the world, educators that the world really needs. I think art spaces or spaces to express themselves, to be creative, are their right. And we must do all we can to create those spaces for our children to thrive.
Okay. Any suggestions you have for young people, college educated types?
College educated type young people, I think the journey to becoming oneself is a hard journey. That a deep investment in that own journey only, I think, is an act of rebellion. It's a I read this somewhere that in a world that is constantly trying to turn you into someone else, being yourself is a radical act. And I feel if more and more young people listen to their own voice of who they want to become, I think that in itself would be radical. I think a lot of us naturally want to bring more justice into the world, naturally want to support others, help others. If we don't turn that voice inside ourselves off, um, I think we can be very, very useful. And people say that, it's so great to be happy. I think it is even better. Maybe it is even better to be useful. Yeah, to be useful in the world.
Okay. All right. Good. Anything else you want to add here?
Uh, I don't know. I think that's essentially about it. I hope more and more young people do what it takes to find their own voice. And if they feel that there's a problem or an issue around them that they feel strongly about, I hope that they take time to learn about that issue, stay with that issue, live with that problem, as a lot of social entrepreneurs would say. And I hope that they find it in them to be themselves and probably contribute to changing the status quo. That's
All
about
right.
it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Jigyasa. Let's say bye now to the viewers. I'll be back with another young person, an expert soon. Bye till then. Bye, everybody.
Bye.